Dzień dobry, everyone. Hello, good morning to the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. It's day number 2, still writing history here in Poland. We are excited to be the first time ever FIA Championship here in Tor Poznań. We are ahead of the qualifying number 2, and as you can see, the paddock is still packed with lots of people and of course the trucks. This is important, and all the truck drivers. We've seen yesterday Norbert Kisch taking the lead after race number 1, and the official lap record should be 1:57.956 in race number 1, lap number 2. And Jochen Hahn, of course, he is competing after him, and he won second place at the race number 1. And then it's of course Sascha Lenz with the SL Apollo Tyres Truck Sport team on third. And we did have a nice podium after race number 2. I heard the most applause, of course, for Steffi Hamm. She had an unfortunate season so far, but ended up on the podium. And of course, Lukas Hahn with a double winner, because he's also competing in the Chrome category. And so he took the lead at the overall podium and, of course, as Chrome driver at the Promoters Cup. And as you can see, José Eduardo Rodrigues, the truck is taking his way up to the grid, and of course the line for the qualifying will be as in the overall standings. So we are very happy to see a sunny day here in Poland, and we do welcome our commentators Chaz Drakert, Joachim Eberts, and of course Fonsi Cebrian. We do have 3 live streams in English, in German and in Spanish. It's up to you to choose, but we hope to stay with you soon.
Yes, indeed. Good morning, everybody. Good morning indeed. Chaz Drakert here, commentating remotely this weekend from the UK. But as Christina rightly pointed out, we have my wonderful colleagues Joachim Eberts and Fonsi Cebrian on the German and Spanish streams, respectively. We had a great first day yesterday at Tor Poznań, and I'm very excited to get the action back underway today as well. As mentioned, Norbert Kisch sets, of course, a official lap record, and the lap record's only being counted in the races. He's actually gone a little bit quicker than that time during the warm-up session this morning. So the lap record of 1:57.956. He's done a 1:57.501 in warm-up. So potentially the circuit a bit quicker today. But as a lot of you may know, and some of you may not know, there's a bit of an unwritten rule in motorsport that lap records only really count when it comes down to race time. So we'll keep our eyes on the numbers and see what the situation is as the day goes on. One of the main talking points yesterday, the fact that Lukas Hahn took his second ever overall race victory in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. He took a very emotional win last year at the Nürburgring, which was great to see. But he's added to that tally with another race victory here at Tor Poznań on his first day back in the championship, which is just awesome. It really is. And Lukas is such a great character as well. There's somebody taking a very chilled route around the paddock towards the circuit. There's a great buzz around Tor Poznań, actually. There's so much going on while the circuit and all the personnel prepare for today's events. Another one of yesterday's talking points was the fact that there was a big moment down at turn 1 yesterday in the second race. There was a couple of trucks just didn't quite check up enough on the brakes and slow it down hard enough into turn 1, not really expecting the field to stop as soon as they did. And I think there was a bit of a concertina effect, as we call it, where one truck just hit the back of another, and like dominoes, they all just piled into each other. And luckily everybody managed to carry on. They all managed to just get back on the circuit eventually, but it was just a big trip off into the dust and into the gravel for a number of them. We're going to have a quick look, though, at some highlights of yesterday's action so you can get a bit caught up on exactly how it all went. We arrived at the circuit not knowing what to expect, really, who was going to be on the pace and who wasn't. But that's one of the best things about a circuit like this, is that it's a real leveller for the playing field. So everybody's got a fresh start and everybody has a fresh mindset coming into a race weekend here, not knowing whether they have the ultimate pace or not. Drivers were pushing like mad during qualifying yesterday, and of course the Super Pole session as well. But ultimately it would be Norbert Kisch that took once again a pole position here in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And he would then go on to start from the front row and lead by example, as he so often does. But everyone was in high spirits and looking forward to the first ever race in the championship at Tor Poznań. There were some great battles up and down the order. and that there was some also issues for Antonio Albacete, but it's been a bit of an interesting weekend so far, actually, Christina, because a lot of the teams are having issues already mechanically or with the tyres. It's quite a tough one, this place.
It is. We're here with our golf cart, and of course our tyres are absolutely spectacularly working. That was Sascha Lenz giving us a cheerio. So we're directly here, as you can see, at the pit exit. It's absolutely stunning to see the trucks. They're brilliantly polished throughout the night. The mechanics been working a lot. Unfortunately, the team of Tim Clemenseca, they could not manage to swap the engine again, so they're out, unfortunately, for the races today. But we are looking forward to see the qualifying going on.
Yes, unfortunately, a truck down in the form of Heinrich Clemenseca and his team. Like I say, it has been a very mechanically demanding weekend for a lot of the teams and drivers. It's not the most undulating circuit in the world. It's not very hilly here at Tor Poznań. It's a very flat track, but still, it's providing a lot of different challenges, like an undulating and very ascending and descending circuit would, to be honest. It's very, very intriguing to see, because on the outset you see the circuit and the shape of it and the corners and you think it can't be that abrasive, but sometimes it can simply just be down to the surface, the way that the track has been laid. There's a few circuits here in the UK that are similar to that as well, that they don't look that challenging on the tyres, but they really do present a completely separate challenge to the rest of your race calendar. The green flag is waving though, and the session is now underway. So while the trucks make their way out, this is qualifying 1. So everybody takes part in this session, except for Heinrich Clemenseca, that is. And they will all try and battle to get into the top 10 positions by the time this session finishes. You'll see a lot of the trucks set a time and then go back into the pits when they're happy with said lap time, and a few of them that are near 10th position or just outside of the top 10 will stay out there and try to improve. Once we've got our top 10 set, the ones outside of that will be cemented into their grid positions, and then the top 10 will go out once again in the order they just finished the session in, and then try and set new lap times. It's a clean slate with 0 lap times on the board when that session starts. So it's an exciting time for everybody, just in case the order gets shaken up. Norbert Kish across the line then, Jochen Hahn in second place, and Antonio Albacete next up. They often leave the pit lane in championship order for this part of the session. Sometimes it's also on a first come first serve basis of who just gets to the end of the pit lane quickest. But the initial sector times and lap times will now start to light up our timing boards. There's Andrej Kursim. Didn't get a podium yesterday. He had 2 podiums at Slovakia Ring, so he's going to be hoping for more of the same sort of fortune here today at least. He had a fantastic battle actually yesterday with Lucas Hahn. They were 2 of the most entertaining drivers in the race, really throwing the trucks at one another in the best way, of course. And there is Stefan Faz. He started yesterday's events with a turbocharger failure, and then after race 2 had to immediately pull over at the side of the road as well. So clearly something a bit frail in the engine, or something not quite working as it should in the long run with their truck. They hopefully have those issues dialed out. There's Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and the 38 machine really tucking it into the apex down there at the corner known as Small Pan, which is turn 6. And then you've got Andrej Kursim just behind him. There is Lucas Hahn, yesterday's race 2 winner. The man that a lot of people will be watching today to try and obviously repeat that fate. He started on pole position after finishing 8th in race 1. Races 2 and 4 of the weekend are always reverse grid races and always exciting. Jamie Anderson there in truck number 33. He's climbing his way up the championship order at the moment, is Jamie. He's not fighting for any honours in the Promoters' Cup. He's moved up to be a Titan driver this season. We have effectively Titan and Chrome in the forms of Pro and Am, essentially. You can see there one of our penalty markers being blown around quite a lot. They're only like a sort of not even styrofoam. They're like a very soft foam. Think of something like a float in a swimming pool. They're very similar to that, but they're nearly 6 feet tall, these things. So it takes quite a bit to knock them down. But obviously the size of these trucks and the weight of them as well, definitely nothing to be sniffed at. So time's coming in then, a 1:57.288 by Norbert Kiss. That's a very fast lap time indeed. And even though it won't count because this is the qualifying session and not the race. That's nearly 7/10 of a second quicker than his lap record that he set yesterday. So if he can do that in the race, it's all hunky-dory. We've got second place Jochen Hahn on a 157.716. Jamie Anderson goes second fastest. Wow, Jamie pops up there with a 157.626. Great lap by Jamie to potentially put him on the front row of the grid, but he'll have to repeat that in Super Pole, don't forget. I'm sure he'll be happy with that one, and coming into the pit lane sharpish, because at the end of the day they won't feel the need to put any more stresses and strains on the truck and send it back out there. But that's really, really good. That is by Jamie. Jochen Hahn now down to third. Sasha Lenz fourth ahead of Antonio Albacete. And all those top five have gone quicker than Norby's race lap record yesterday, you see. Even in fifth position, Antonio Albacete has gone 26 thousandths of a second faster than it. He's got a couple of tenths of a second back to Andre Kurzim and Steffi Halm. Those two are usually inseparable on the grid as well. They always set very similar lap times. Lucas Hahn in 8th position once again, just ahead of Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. Don't forget, they are actually battling 4 points in the Promoters' Cup as well. There is Stefan Fass, who so far this season has been the closest rival to Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, but he's really not having a weekend to remember. So it's not all falling into place this time round for him. Hopefully things get better over the course of today and he can manage to at least claw some points back. There'll be a few of the drivers now in the Promoters' Cup taking their time to get back round the circuit before they then get on with the job at hand and push on, because they'll want to improve their lap times. A few of them, of course, will be Mark Taylor, John Newell and Stefan Fass. We seem to only have had the... Oh, no, sorry, we have had 14 trucks out there at the moment. It's just Jonathan Andre has not set a lap time, so he's not appeared on the timing board on the left-hand side there. There is Jonathan Andre making his way around the last corner. There's Norbert Kish, currently on fastest, on pole position again. And he'll be very happy with the time set there. That's a real solid lap time, even by his standards as well. So he knows that his job is done in this early part of qualifying. There's a lot of drivers that will now peel into the pits as mentioned. And we'll have to now wait and see whether anybody can keep their form for Super Pole. But we still have 11 3/4 minutes left to go. So there's still plenty to be done for these drivers that are outside of the top 10, trying to make their way in. You can see they have to guide the trucks so gently around turn one. Sasha Lenz feels like he can improve on his lap time. The only difference really that it would make right now in terms of his position would be that he would go out in Super Bowl a little bit further ahead of some of the others, but it wouldn't make too much of a difference. Just waiting now to see who actually stays out, but it seems like Louis Requenco has been one of them as well. He feels the need to stay out there. He's in 9th position at the moment, so he's right on the cusp. So there's drivers that could obviously improve and beat him, and then he'll drop down outside of the top 10, so he needs to be on the circuit and putting the laps in to defend his honour, essentially, with that one. There's Jamie Anderson's team just checking everything over with the truck, making sure that it's all going to plan. You can see how far in the aerodynamics actually go here. You can see it's just a solid hole behind there down towards the chassis rails. These trucks aren't the most aerodynamically dependent things in the world, as you can imagine, but it still does make a difference in some ways. You'll notice that some of them have very interesting cutouts and certain mouldings in the bodywork just to help wherever they can. as Mark Taylor crosses the line and does beat Louis Requenco's time. He goes up into 9th place with a 1:58.959, and then Stefan Fast beats Louis Requenco as well. This is exactly what I was talking about. Louis Requenco now finds himself in a position where he's not going to go through to Superpole with 9.5 minutes left to go. So Mark Taylor doing a great job. He's having a really good weekend yesterday. He had a bit of a slip onto the podium yesterday during the prize giving, so hopefully he's okay. Doesn't seem to have affected him so far. He's doing a really good job. It's their first season in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, so he needs to prove the point and obviously make sure that he doesn't raise a few eyebrows. That's not the phrase I should really go for, but make sure that people take notice of his pace and his capability, and obviously that pace gets developed as well as the season goes on. There is Sascha Lenz again crossing the line. He's not setting the world alight, but he's actually had his time removed apparently, so that's why it took a time to come through actually. We're going to go back to the pit lane though and speak to Christina, who's got, I believe, Lucas Hahn.
Yes, and he had a marvelous day yesterday, of course. Memories so fresh. But how are you going to repeat some of the miraculous memories again today?
Yeah, yesterday we did a fantastic job. And today we want to get close enough to do it again. And yeah, I think we are feeling all good, the whole team. We have a good feeling inside the team. And I think we can do something today, but now we have the Super Pole, and after that we are driving the races.
Thank you very much. So we are up to Super Pole. He's right now, as you said, Chaz, ranked 7th.
Yeah, he's going to be looking forward to another opportunity to put in a faster time. Here comes Louis Requenco to the line. Now, all of these drivers might get knocked down if Sascha Lenz improves on his lap. So it seems like somewhere Sascha Lenz's time has been removed for track limits or some sort of infringement. But it hasn't come through on the official board yet or anything. So I just noticed that Sascha's time disappeared down the board, and hopefully for his sake he can put a new one in. We do have Jonathan Andre not with a valid time either at the moment. He's actually not even showing us down in 14th on our timing screen on the left-hand side there. Here comes Sascha Lenz into the final corner then. He's been fighting for the championship for the last couple of years, so he's definitely one to watch, and we all know that he's going to be one of the quickest up there. Let's see what time he can do. So 1:57.288 for Norbert Kish, 1:57.626 for Jochen Hahn, for Jamie Anderson, and he beats that. And 1:57.436 for Sascha Lenz puts in the ideal lap time, really, to get that close to Norby, and of course to beat his teammate Jamie Anderson to the front row of the grid, albeit provisionally. So clearly some track limits infringements or something for Sascha Lenz in the immediate lap time that he did first off. Andre Kurzim's in the thick of it, and he's also down there with Christina.
Absolutely. We've been interrupted at the interview yesterday, of course, due to race issues. But how are you feeling today? You're close to Berlin, which is why you need to talk to many people, lots of fans coming over here. We are 270 kilometers east from Berlin, which is, of course, your hometown, your base there.
Yes, for us it's the second home race for us between Nürburgring. And yes, we have a lot of guests here, and yes, a lot of spectators here. Yes, we are very happy about here in Poland, and yes, we hope of a good race today.
Right now you ranked 5th. I saw someone getting you a mobile phone to check, of course, the times. Are you happy with that, or are you getting out for another fast lap or waiting for Super Pole?
I think no, we wait for the Super Pole. I think 5th place is okay, and hopefully we can do it again at the Super Pole.
Everyone is much faster than yesterday, of course. Is it the experience, or what are the other issues?
I think the experience is a big point here, and nobody drives every time a race here. For everybody, it's a new track, and yes, I think that is the thing.
Thank you very much. Have fun today. So as you can see, everyone is really adapting right now with this brand new track here in Poland for everyone.
Yeah, it's one of the most interesting elements of this weekend is that it's still a very new circuit to us all, so nobody really has unlocked all the secrets of this track at the moment. So I'm excited to see who manages to find a bit of a breakthrough in terms of the pace around here, or even just with certain corners if there's a different way to approach it. But obviously all of our drivers are so good, they really do know what they're doing, so it's looking good at the moment for them. It's just those drivers that are outside of the top 10 that need to improve, because now, despite Louis Requenco going faster than Stefan Faas, he's actually dropped outside of the top 10 again because of Sascha Lenz's improvement. So the battle is on now between Requenco, Faas, Newell, and actually is Jonathan Andre at the bottom. He has actually put a time in now. Sorry, it caught me off guard. You could physically hear it there as the cogs were whirring in my head. But he's actually put a time on the board. It's just not as competitive as they would have liked. I think he is struggling for pace here this weekend, is the Frenchman. There is Louis Requenco in the gorgeous number 64 green machine. And there is Jonathan Andre, beautiful Lion Truck Racing machine. I love their livery for this season. They've implied a lot of this, implemented a lot of this sort of military grey on it to contrast against the fluorescent yellow. That was just a considerable outlap for Jonathan Andre, so it wasn't a representative time that would put him on the board. This is going to be his fast lap now, though, as he pushes around turn 1, around Big Pan, down towards the little right kink here at turn 2, a little bit wide out of turn 1, just kissing the dust slightly. We saw him really pushing yesterday, though, Jonathan Andre. He was great fun to watch. Hard onto the brakes now into Devil's Smile, which is turn 3. It's almost like a hairpin. It's just a bit more than 90 degrees down there, so you have to be so careful on the exit not to tell yourself that it is a 90-degree corner and get on the power early. Stefan Faas has just crossed the line. He's not improved on his lap time. He was some 7/10 of a second off. Louis Requenco is going for another one, though. He wants to try and get back into the top 10, where Mark Taylor currently resides. Mark is still circulating as well, but I don't think he's putting in fast laps until he really needs to. It's like I said a moment ago, he needs to be on the circuit, ready to defend his honour, essentially. And apparently it was overspeeding for Jonathan Andre and Sascha Lenz that got their lap times deleted. Thank you to Daria and Alice for providing the information once again while I'm back over here in the UK. Alice is as well, actually, to be fair. She's based at home this weekend. The situation there is that she's juggling duties with Formula E. Here is Louis Requenco just continuing on his lap, though, but we're going to nip down back to Christina in the pit lane.
And you made yourself a bit of a stressy situation then. You needed to repeat your time due to a cancellation of your first lap time, which was really good, due to overspeeding. How do you keep calm right now?
No, the problem is on when you come back for the start and finish line, the last right corner, there's a bridge, and every time it's a point. When you find the point, and you have a one overspeed. So now I have a bad luck, but anyway, we look now for the Super Pole. We are in, so all good.
Yeah. What are you expecting from Super Pole from your team right now?
Yeah, I want to drive my best what I can do, and then we'll see later what it's position what we have on the end.
All right. Thank you very much. Back to you, Chaz.
Thanks very much, Christina. Yes, Sascha Lenz there, just implying that basically the GPS managed speeding system here in this championship will have a bit of a black spot, let's say, underneath the bridge. So what Sascha's done there is got up to speed out of the right-hander before it down at radar, ironically named, and then as he goes under the bridge and the GPS loses any sort of signal for just a moment, then if he's just getting up to that 100 miles an hour, 160 kilometers an hour, then obviously the truck will sort of skip a beat, so to speak, and then all of a sudden by the time you come out from underneath the bridge, it'll say you're doing over 100 miles an hour, and then you've only got a second or so to react. I believe the official figure was something like 2.4 seconds to get back under the 100 miles an hour limit, but please don't quote me on that. But right now, Mark Taylor is still inside the top 10. You can quote me on that one. And he's only in by 18 thousandths of a second as well. That's the difference between himself and Louis Requenco at this moment in time. It's very, very close. There's Jonathan Andre. Still, unfortunately for him, hasn't been able to improve on the lap time that he set a little bit earlier on. But we'll keep our fingers crossed for Jonathan and the team that they can have a better day than they had yesterday, because his pace was just not quite up to scratch, and they spent a lot of the time just lingering at the back of the field, really, and they weren't scoring points. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for them that some of the attrition, I should say, comes their way today, and that they manage to pick up some positions through that. Here's John Newell just going around the final couple of corners now as he tries to improve on his lap time. Mark Taylor, like I say, he's just like a shark in the water here, just circling around the circuit, waiting for all these beachgoers to set a faster lap time. But it seems like Mark has done the job. He's done exactly what he needs to at the moment. Hopefully that's not a speed readout on the graphic, because he's certainly going forwards. But still, he'll be really pleased after yesterday's performances to get into the top 10. There's a lot of very, very quick drivers that will go through to Superpole and then improve on their lap times. I'm excited to see what Mark can do with that as well, whether he can improve on the 1:58.959 that he's done. So close, though, like I say, back to Louis Requenco. Only 18 thousandths of a second there. And Louis Requenco has come into the pits, so too has Stefan Fass. John Newell, I think, is completing a lap, but it's not been an improvement, actually. There he is, actually, across the line now. So, unfortunately, no improvement in time for John. He will be starting race 1 of the day, race 3 of the weekend, from 13th on the grid, alongside Jonathan Andre, with Stefan Fass and Louis Requenco ahead of him. Stefan Fass's difficult weekend and difficult season really continues. He's had some strong results up to this point, but unfortunately for Stefan, they've had a lot of technical gremlins. But you can see just how gorgeous this circuit is. Even if the grass is a bit drier than it normally would be due to the hot conditions, it's such a beautiful place to go racing out here in the forest. It's lovely to get a circuit with so much greenery around it for once as well. But there it is, Norbert Kish being ushered forward. You can actually see, if you just look where the MAN badge is on the truck there, you can see completely through it. There's a few angles with these trucks based on where the grille is on the front and obviously where the intercoolers and radiators are inside and underneath the cab. You can see all the way through them like a tunnel a lot of the time with the mesh that they have. It's incredible to see. It's something that I only really realised during my first season of commentating on them. Look there, where the MAN badge is, you'll see now, you can see through the machine as Jochen Hahn's truck pulls up behind. There's a couple of the MANs where you can do that. Some of them having these bigger moustache-shaped grills. Oh, and trust me, once you've seen it as a moustache, you'll never unsee it as a moustache either. Sasha Lenz is there, just on the right-hand side of shot in truck number 3. He finished that session in 2nd place, so he will go out behind Norbert Kish. They go out in the order they just finished in, basically. And then behind him will be Jamie Anderson, Jochen Hahn and Antonio Albertetti. It's really good to see Jamie jump straight back into the championship after missing the first round and have such great pace about him. He really is on a mission so far this season. As there's a bit of now quiet over the circuit, just goes calm for a moment. John Newell making his way back into the pits in the background there. And everybody will be gearing themselves up now for Superpole to get underway. Once John is in the pits and has pulled over, they will all head out one by one with a much shorter session as well. They only have 10 minutes to get the job done here in the Superpole sessions. So they need to have their wits about them and crack on here and be really switched on. So no overspeeding, please, Sasha. And, of course, no mistakes. There's a lot of pressure on Superpole, and that's what makes it such an exciting session. So the drivers outside of that have now been confirmed as starting in the positions they were in. So the top 10 are the only ones that are still up for grabs. And there is a closer look at John Newell's number 18 machine. It's got those very interesting oval cutouts in the side of the bodywork down the side of the truck, which we haven't really seen from anybody else. But again, it comes down to the aerodynamics of these trucks and what the teams do to gain any sort of advantage they can and make it work better for them. So Norbert Kish leads out Sascha Lenz, Jamie Anderson, Jochen Hahn, Antonio Albacete, Andre Kurzim, Steffi Halm, Lucas Hahn, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and Mark Taylor for Super Pole. And then the rest of the trucks, John Newell will be ushered into the paddock. But as you see now, nobody's really going for it imminently here with this group. They just guide themselves around the circuit, get everything up to temperature. It's going to be a bit easier today than it was yesterday. And there is Norbert Kish, the man that everybody wants to beat today. And all the time, usually. Going into turn 6 right now, small pan. So there's big pan turn 1 and small pan turn 6. He's got Sascha Lenz right behind him on the road right now. Usually they'll leave quite a lot of clear air between themselves and the truck ahead, just to make sure that if they are quicker or if the person ahead has an issue, they don't get held up by them in any way. They don't run into the back of them. Norby obviously not having to worry about that being the lead truck at the very front of the field. He can choose whatever pace he wants to here. I mean, Sascha could very well decide to go past him and overtake him and then get on with the lap a little bit quicker. But at the moment, he's just filling the mirrors, maybe playing a bit of a mind game just to put some pressure on Norby and try and unsettle him somewhat. It's not easy to unsettle Norby at all. But you've still got to try it, haven't you? As a driver, you need to try and play every trick in the book. Norby there just testing the steering by the look of it as he goes into the final corner. Just gives it a flick to the right, a flick to the left, and off he goes. Almost Scandinavian flicks it round the final corner here at last right at Tor Poznań. Across the line he goes. Down the start-finish straight in towards Big Pan. Look at the speed that they carry on the way into here. It's remarkable to watch. And again, I urge you, if you've never seen truck racing in person before, you really need to go and see it and just witness the incredible pace and capability of these machines for their size. 5.3 tons, over 3 tons of that over the front axle. Some 1,200 horsepower and nearly 6,000 newton meters of torque. Yes, 6,000 newton meters of torque. 0 to 60 times obviously aren't much to boast about, but a lot of the time with our trucks, 20 to 100 miles an hour is taken care of just about as quickly as a Porsche 911 GT3 RS, despite weighing 5 tons. The braking capability is massive as well. Obviously, to be able to stop such a machine, you need very, very good brakes. The brakes usually have a sort of optimum operating window of about 450 degrees Celsius to 500. It's a very small window. The drivers need to be careful with that, and they have water jets that cool the brakes very actively over the course of the race. You'll see sometimes a bit of steam coming from the front axles of the trucks when they leave hard braking zones as the water jets spray onto them to cool the brakes down the straights that follow. Look at that big gap there in the middle of the field, though. Jamie Anderson ahead of Jochen Hahn. Obviously, it's not a race scenario, so it's not down to having a big gap, but Jochen has left a lot of room ahead of him. There's usually a lot of room in front of this guy, never really filled by any of his competitors. Norbert Kish round the final corner to try what he might for pole position again. It's a 1:56.606. Wow. That's very, very fast indeed by Norbert Kish. Just for context, the race lap record, which he set in race 1 yesterday, was a 1:57.956. He's just gone 1.3 seconds quicker than that. That is incredible. A 1:57.750 comes in for Antonio Albertetti. He goes second fastest ahead of Jochen Hahn. Actually, no, it's even quicker than that for Albertetti. A 1:57.212 for Albertetti, sorry. And then it's a 1:57.750 for Jochen Hahn. It's a 0.774, so just 24 thousandths of a second between Jochen Hahn and Sascha Lenz. Jamie Anderson finds himself in 5th ahead of Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, the highest placed Chrome or Promoters Cup driver. Then it's Kurt Zimmerhalm again, very inseparable there, a 10th and a half between them. Lucas Hahn 9th and Mark Taylor in 10th place. I'm pretty sure Mark Taylor will just be happy to go into Superpole and just set a lap like we see Louis Requenco do sometimes. He'll put a lap on the board to at least make sure that he's got the position guaranteed and then call it a day there. But you never know, Mark and the team might see it as a good opportunity to continue improving and get a bit more practice in ahead of the race, so why not? Why not get the extra laps in? We'll wait and see what he does with that. All of our trucks run on 100% renewable HVO diesel, as you saw just there at the bottom of your screen a moment ago. The emissions were reduced up to 90% by the introduction of this HVO diesel. It doesn't make any unwanted smoke or unwanted smells or anything. So a fantastic element of the championship is that we go racing on this diesel. There's so many people out there that love to think that this truck racing won't be around for long, and they think that it's all just diesel guzzling black smoke monsters everywhere. But it really isn't. There's more sustainability in this form of motorsport than there are in many others. And it's great because it feeds back into the industry as well, so we get to see the sort of technology you see on the racetrack eventually on the public roads as well in the haulage and transport industry. Sascha Lenz across the line then, with a lot of clear air around him now. Pretty much everybody else has dialed a lap in and seems happy to leave it there. Although I think Jamie Anderson might have been going for a lap there as well. I'll have to wait and see. It looked like he was coming around the final corner in quite a pokey nature. There, down on the gears, you can hear Sascha Lenz blipping it on the throttle as he changes down through turn 3. Runs a little bit wide on the exit, but there is quite a bit of runoff there that the drivers can use. That's one thing I do like about this circuit, though, is there isn't a colossal amount of runoff everywhere. It's not like Paul Ricard. There's a lot of grass and barriers here for you to worry about. It's an old-school circuit in that way, that mistakes are punished if you go off the circuit. Not like the hand-holding circuits of late, which we get, which have concrete runoffs everywhere and tell drivers, oh, it's okay to go outside the white lines. Not that I'm bitter about it at all. But I love circuits like this, that it's just either you're on the circuit or you're on the grass. And that's how it should be in my eyes. Yes, of course, there's safety aspects to consider when it comes to running off a circuit and going into the grass or a gravel trap or a barrier. But at the end of the day, they can be adapted. They can be changed and worked on. As long as there's grass on the outside, the drivers won't feel the need to take the mick with track limits, especially when they've got the big markers like we have. Mark Taylor there, just going across the line and down towards turn 1, so he's clearly heard what I was saying and he's thought, nah, we'll need to prove Chaz wrong here. I need to go for a faster lap time now. Let's show him that we're not just here to buy the ice creams, as a friend of mine once said. Sascha Lenz right up to the edge of the circuit there, into the final corner. He's kicked it in very hard, though, around the last corner. The back end stepping out massively. It's a huge drift. It's not going to be wondrous for lap times doing that, but does he improve? He does, but he's only 16 thousandths of a second off Jochen Hahn now. All of the effort, all of the maximum attack from Sascha Lenz, and he finds himself just 16 thousandths off the truck ahead. It takes longer to blink than 16 thousandths of a second, let's just put it that way. Incredible. So, so close. Just looking at the times a bit further down as well, it's very close between Rodriguez and Andre Kurzim in 6th and 7th positions. Steffi Halm is still 8th ahead of Lucas Hahn. And then Mark Taylor, as Sascha Lenz pushes a little bit too hard there, gets some dusty Goodyears. The dust wasn't a massive problem yesterday, but it was certainly very prominent, wasn't it? There was a lot of it floating in the air around the circuit. Sasha's not going to be able to get another lap on the board. A lot of trucks are still continuing on, though, in case they need to improve further. Doesn't look like Antonio Albacete was on full attack there, but some of the other drivers maybe. I think a lot of them, other than Norbert Kish, were just trying to see what they could do about potential improvements there. None of them improving at the moment, I don't think. Although, no, Andre Curzim does improve, actually. Goes up into 6th position ahead of Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, a 57.889 for him. And Rodriguez improves as well, a 158.025. But obviously the improvement by Curzim was more than the improvement by Rodriguez. And typically, Curzim and Halm, despite me saying that they were inseparable on the grid earlier, have now proved me wrong, and they have a truck between them for their starting positions. Jamie Anderson also improved on his lap time, but did not get up another position. And just for the record, the top 6 now are all currently quicker than Norbert Kish's lap record during the race yesterday. So it's going to be intriguing to see who can manage that, to knock that lap record down. We can all put a lot of money on the fact that it might be Norbert Kish. But we'll have to wait and see, won't we? There is the checkered flag for Sasha Lenz. No improvement for him on that final lap, of course. The couple of mistakes that he made, making that one benign, I'm afraid. But still 4th on the grid. Not bad at all by Sasha Lenz. He's ahead of his teammate Jamie Anderson as Team Lowenpower. They are once again teamed up for this championship in 2023. And there is Steffi Halm, 8th position for her today. Not her best qualifying performance, but still it's another consistent, solid top 10. She had her first podium of the season yesterday in race 2, which she was very happy with. So too did this man, Jamie Anderson, finally getting some silverware to take home to his newborn. Hello to Ella as well. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. And hope Little is behaving themselves, of course. Jamie's definitely behaving himself right now, though. 5th place, great result for him. He had a real turnaround partway through last season, did Jamie. There was an engine issue in the first couple of rounds of the season, and then once they got that sorted, the truck was absolutely on rails, and they'd been saying it for a while that they were looking forward to seeing how the truck gets on. You can see Tim Frost there, actually, just recording some new vlog content for T-Sport Burnout. I watched their video of the Slovakia ring just the other day, and it was very entertaining, especially the part where the rainstorm came down on the grid, and he and some of Jamie's team were braving it out because they're British, saying that they're used to the rain and that it was nothing. But yeah, it's been great to see this turnaround from Jamie Anderson. I mean, he nearly won the Promoters' Cup Championship yesterday, had an excellent, last year I should say, excellent campaign with Teo Calve alongside him as well, fighting for the honours right to the death of the championship. It was lovely to see Teo Calve ultimately coming out on top, but Jamie's overall championship performance with multiple race victories causing him to now be a Titan-classed driver for this season. So he's fighting with the big dogs at the front of the pack for overall honours, not just in the Promoters' Cup as a sort of subcategory to the former. But that's going to be all from Superpole. That is Norbert Kish on pole position, Antonio Albacete alongside him on the front row. Antonio will be really pleased with that, and so too will the aforementioned Tim Frost of T-Sport Burnau. Then it's going to be Jochen Hahn and Sasha Lenz, Jamie Anderson and Andre Curzim, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, Steffi Halm next up, then Lucas Hahn and Mark Taylor as well. All those drivers making it into the top 10, and obviously we then have our other drivers that didn't quite make it in there, unfortunately. But that would be Louis Requenco, Stefan Fast, John Newell and Jonathan Andre. But great stuff by Antonio Albacete to get onto the front row of the grid once again for T-Sport Burnau. Antonio still holds the record for the most podiums in this championship's history with 284. 539 starts for Antonio. But it's the only statistic, really, the podiums, that Jochen Hahn does not have. But he's catching up gradually. He's getting there, is Jochen Hahn. He had a podium yesterday, which takes him to 278. Albacete did not appear on the podium yesterday at all, so he's catching up gradually. Like I say, the gap now is, what, 5 podiums between the two? But when you're talking nearly 300 apiece, it's very, very impressive, isn't it? There's the beautifully prepared number 81 machine of Mark Taylor. Brand new livery for this season for Mark. Usually runs a sort of white, red and grey livery, but this season they've gone for this primarily black look about the truck, and it looks really, really cool. Look at how beautiful even the paddock is here at Tor Poznań as well. It's like parking them away in the forest, out of sight. It's gorgeous, isn't it? There you can see, look at that front right wheel there as Mark was turning. That's down to the caster angle of these trucks. So because of the way that the tyre really leans into the corner, because of the steering angle that they put on, they have something that's called a really high caster angle. So because of the truck leaning and trying to pull the weight away from the tyre as they go around corners, they need the tyre to sort of lean in a little bit to maintain a strong contact patch with the road and maintain as much grip as possible. So when they move around in the paddock, they look very, very strange indeed for that reason. And we're going to go back down to the paddock and or pit lane because Christina has found our second place finisher in that session, Antonio Albersetti.
Yes, and the team, it was amazing. They cheered you up as soon as you entered here. So you've been on the front row right now for race number 3 this weekend. You are happy too?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to be in front row. Yeah, I hope to keep the position, you know. I mean, the first corner is a little bit difficult from the outside. But okay, I mean, I will try to keep the position and try to have a good pace for the race. Yesterday we have a little bit of problems with the rear. We have a broken anti-roll bar and it was very difficult. But I hope that today we have a good rim for the race. So I will try to be on the podium for sure.
How many thousands are the experience plus the bonus? Because it's the second day for everyone right now.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, you know. I mean, it's a new circuit for everyone, so we are learning a little bit each time that we go out. And yeah, I changed a little bit of my driving style, and I think it was better for sure.
What did you change?
Well, we have to change a little bit the gear shifting points, because also we have a little bit, yesterday we were warning for the smoke, so we have a little bit of problem there. And yeah, then I was attacking a little bit more in some corners.
Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Happy Antonio Albersetti, ladies and gentlemen.
Unsurprisingly so as well. A fantastic performance by Antonio there to be the closest one to chase down Norbert Kish. And it just always puts a smile on my face when we speak to Antonio. He's such a lovely bloke, he really is. Norbert Kish, though, fastest, a 1:56.606. Yes, what a lap time that is. And ironically enough, it's 6:06. That's the gap back to Antonio Albersetti in second place, but he's happy to be on the front row. Then we've got an old German second row and two big hitters as well. Jochen Hahn and Sascha Lenz certainly waiting to do battle there. Watch out for Jochen at the start of race 1, trying to go down the inside of Antonio Albersetti. Jamie Anderson and Andre Kurzin will line up on row 3 ahead of Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and Stephanie Halm. We then have Lucas Hahn, yesterday's race 2 winner, in 9th, and Mark Taylor makes it into Superpole for the second time this season after Misano. Very well done. Louis Rikwenko and Stefan Faas are next up. John Newell and Jonathan Andre round out the grid, but the aforementioned Mark Taylor is down there with Christina after a great Superpole session, getting into the top 10.
And it has just been a glimpse, 18,000, and you've managed it to go into Superpole. What do you think?
I think it's brilliant. We're trying to start today how we left it yesterday and carry on for another good weekend and try and get on the podium again.
Who was screaming then on your ears?
I think everybody. We all kept saying, keep going, don't come in yet. And when it was time to come in, it was brilliant. It's good news, that is, when you're coming in, it's just ended in your day.
It's the second time this season ending you up in Superpole. What does that mean for you personally?
It's brilliant. It means we've come out here, we're learning the tracks and we're trying to take us time, but it means we're pushing on and everyone's working brilliant together and we're getting somewhere now.
Thank you. Have a good race then.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So as you can see, happy faces here in the paddock, and of course the most happy faces I think are our commentators, because we are ahead of race number 3 and number 4 this weekend.
Yes, we are. I'm really excited to see how these grids shape up and how it affects the races, of course. Look how tiny the little Suzuki Swift Cups look on the grid now compared to our trucks. Really does show you the size of the things. But yes, really excited to see how we get underway for races 3 and 4 of the weekend, rounds 11 and 12 of the 2023 Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. As you see there, that's when our broadcast times will be. So 1:45 CEST will bring you race number 3 of the weekend, and then race number 4 will be at 4:15 CEST. It's quite an early finish for us here compared to normal. We sometimes go on with races at nearly 6 p.m. in the evening, and that's European time as well. But it's wonderful, I'm sure, for a lot of the personnel to have a bit of an earlier finish. We're going to have a quick look now at some of the best pictures, though, of the qualifying and Super Pole sessions that we've just experienced.